So I've got a question for you guys today, and it's the topic of today's video. Do we actually need the best? So I've been at Overland Expo, I've displayed the Jeep at a few shows this year, and a guy came up to me recently and he said, Dan, I love what you're doing, I love all the travels, but why are you driving a Jeep? You're Australian, Dan, you should be driving a Land Cruiser. Land Cruisers are the best. And you know, I've spent about 1 million hours thinking about this, and I definitely have my ideas, but I would love to hear what you guys think. And is it really necessary for us to have the best, or do we just need to aim for good enough? Because if good enough gets the job done, by definition, it's good enough. So I'm just an ordinary guy. I didn't win the lottery. My YouTube channel doesn't make much money. I still have to have a job. So for me, there isn't any point theorizing what I would do if I had unlimited money or if I could have $1 million Unimog. I have to keep my adventures real and down to earth. So for me, I don't have a whole bunch of spare money and I can't always just have the best. So the topic of today's video, I want to throw it out there. Do we really need the best? Stick around, I'll get into it all right now. My name's Dan, this is The Road Chose Me. So to explore this topic, what I'd like to do is wind the clock back to when I was getting ready to explore Africa. And there's no doubt about it, for Africa, the 70 Series Land Cruiser, it really is the best vehicle. In fact, maybe it's the best vehicle to explore the world, period. And let's just quickly run through parts and support. I think there's no doubt Toyota are the best in the world. In terms of durability, I've never been, but Scott Brady tells the story that the Land Cruiser factory in Japan, they actually have totally different standards than any other car that's ever built in the world. The glass is thicker, the durability testing is just stronger and more. They basically build Land Cruisers to a different standard than any other vehicle that's built in the world. Maybe only something like the Mercedes G-Wagon, which is military, maybe that's an equivalent. But I think it's safe to say the 70 Series is built stronger than a Jeep Wrangler or a Toyota 4Runner, for example. So durability, the 70 Series is the best. I think in terms of what it gives you, you know, a solid diesel engine, a nice standard transmission, solid axles. If you get the troop carrier, you get tons of interior space. If you get the pickup truck, there's obviously 1 million options to put a canopy on there and all those kinds of things. So without sort of starting a flame war, you guys know that I love my Jeeps. They've done really well for me. But I think a smart person would have to say the 70 Series Land Cruiser is the best vehicle in the world to drive around the world. I don't feel bad saying that. I think it's true. So anyway, if it's the best vehicle in the world, let's look at what it would have taken to get one. And so I am Australian. I'm pretty lucky. I've got my Australian passport. I could pretty easily get my dad to buy me one, even upfit it a bit, shove it in a shipping container, and basically send it anywhere in the world that I want to go to. He could even register it for me in Australia in my name. And then, so when I get to Africa, it's already mine, I legally own it, and I'm ready to go. Like, that is possible. So what's it going to cost? If we look at it, a good 70 Series these days, they're about $80,000 or $90,000. You're easily going to spend 20, 30, 40 on upgrades. All the people that I met driving around Australia in their troopies, they'd all spent between $130,000 and $150,000 on their vehicle. So no doubt about it, you have an epic, epic vehicle ready to explore the world. Let's just say round numbers, 100,000 US dollars, ready to go anywhere on the planet. That is incredible. I think it is the best. I think you'll have an amazing adventure. So if I had done that, that's $100,000 spent and I have this vehicle. Or now, let's compare it to what I actually did. So what I did is I bought this Jeep and I upfitted it as much as I could myself. So the vehicle ended up costing me about $35,000, about $40,000. I shipped it over to Africa and I spent 3 years driving around Africa, all expenses included, then shipped it back. How much did all of that cost me? The trip cost about $60,000. The Jeep was about $40,000. So all in, all done, there's my $100,000. So this is kind of the point that I'm trying to make in this video today. Do you, and this is a genuine question, I'd love to know your answer down in the comments, do you want to own the ultimate 70 Series Land Cruiser and have it sitting in your driveway for $100,000? Or do you want to have the Jeep that I drove around Africa and the time and the money to take 3 years off work and go and take it around Africa for 3 years? If you could have one of those two options, which one do you genuinely believe is better? And remember too, my Jeep never suffered a mechanical breakdown. It has never left me stranded. So in terms of, is it good enough to drive around Africa? I mean, by definition, the answer to that question is yes, because it did. And the Jeep plus the entire expedition was $100,000, or have one sitting in your driveway for $100,000. I mean, you guys know which way I go on this, but I'm really fascinated to hear, are you guys that passionate about getting out there and exploring that the exploration is more important? Or would you rather have the vehicle sitting in your driveway that looks incredible? I think it's a really valid topic to bring up. Do you genuinely need the best and therefore you spend all your money just on the vehicle? Or do you just need good enough, which I think the Jeep clearly was, and then you can spend all of the rest of the money on actually having adventure? I really think it's a fun topic to explore, and we can do it again if we go backwards further in time to when I was getting ready to drive the Pan American Highway. Exactly the same story. At the time, everyone was suggesting I get like an 80 series or 100 series Land Cruiser. No doubt, those are incredible vehicles, probably the best you can get in North America. I would have at the time spent, let's say, $30,000 on the vehicle, and then I would have driven the Pan American Highway. Of course, at the end then, you get tempted to ship it back because you've got so much money invested in it. So then you're into the vehicle for, let's say, $35,000, $40,000. Well, how much did I spend driving to Argentina? I spent $27,000 all in, including the vehicle, because I bought the Jeep for $5,000 before the trip. I drove it to the end of the road and I sold it for $5,000. So the Jeep didn't cost me anything at all. So again, do you want to spend, this is a genuine question, if I was a genie and if I could grant you a wish, would you rather have a really well outfitted 100 series Land Cruiser sitting in your driveway and that's it? Or would you rather have the little Jeep that I drove to Argentina and enough time and money to take 2 years off work to drive it to the top of Alaska all the way to the bottom of Argentina, then you have to give it away again, get on a plane, fly home, and now you're sitting at home 2 years later after having the adventure. Yeah, you don't have a vehicle anymore, but you had those 2 years of adventure. How would you rather spend $30,000? And again, I hope this illustrates my point. Do you actually need the best? Is it worth spending all that time, effort, and energy? What does it get you as opposed to having good enough? And again, I think the fact that the Jeep drove the whole way, it never broke down once. I never spent a single day wrenching on that thing. I've never had it towed. I never paid to have it worked on. So clearly it's good enough. Do you just want good enough and then have the adventure? Or do you want to spend all that extra money to have the best? This is legitimately something I'm really curious to know about. I would love for you to leave a comment. Let me know which one would you go with. That is what I'm all about on this video. And I think you've seen in general on my channel and when I put messages out there, the books I've written, the stories I tell, I'm trying to encourage people to get out and have adventures. I personally think that that's way more important than just having the best. So another one of those interesting topics, I have tons more of build videos to show you from the build of the thing that's sitting behind me. There's a lot of work to go. Then I have to get started on the interior, and I'm gonna have it on display this year at SEMA down in Vegas. That is right at the end of October, right at the start of November. As always, I need to say thanks to my Patreon supporters. They make all of this possible. They're getting behind the scenes content. They already have seen the layout for the interior. They know how all of that's going. They know where I'm taking this thing. Hopefully next year it'll be in a shipping container and it'll be off to a new part of the world that I've never been to before. So huge thanks to my Patreon supporters. Thanks to you guys for watching, and definitely let me know in the comments. I'd love to know your thoughts on this topic. So have fun out there, and maybe I'll bump into you on the road.